I'd be what you call a swinging voter. I'm a little bit worried about the policies of the Labor government, and I'm also worried about the policies of the other government.
I don't think it really matters. Whichever one gets in, we're not going to do any good out of them anyway. They're all just useless.
I think it's mainly swinging at the moment. No one seems to be able to make up their mind. The people that come in here, they've got a fairly mixed reaction about it all.
Is that your opinion too? Have you undecided about which way you want to vote?
Very undecided at this moment, yeah.
I'm not voting for any of them.
Why not?
Because I don't like any of them.
Do you think the local member's been doing a good job?
Who is it?
Yeah, it's sitting on the fence. I'll stay there. Thanks.
What about the Swansea Bridge? Is that still an issue here?
Well, they're all complaining about it. They still say it should have gone over the top. I don't think there's any doubt about that either. And I don't see where it's going to interfere or improve the flow of traffic a great deal at all.
What about the Swansea Bridge? Is that still a problem?
Yes, especially with all the traffic at Easter and all the other holidays.
Now that it's been built, a lot of the locals can see the advantages of it. It's going to ease the traffic flow out the front, make it a lot better.
But I know they're all against Bowman. It's only for one reason, but I'm not. I'm not against Bowman because...
What reason's that?
Play with the Swansea Bridge.
My father's been a bloody Labor man, so have I, up till the last Lake election, and I voted independent, and I'll vote Liberal this time.
So you will be going against your traditional Labor?
I'll go against because I want a rifle to go into my mate's properties to shoot on.
Well, when you look at it, the lake does need cleaning up a lot. There's enough garbage going in the lake now without more of it.
What about the Marine Studies Centre? Is that a good way to spend bicentennial funding?
I don't know. I think it is. But I think they've also spent the money on making the beaches better. That's a good idea because the beaches are in a pretty bad way up at Caves Beach right now.
So you believe tourism is where the money should be spent?
Have you made your mind up whether Liberal, Labor, Independent?
I don't know. I don't know. If you vote for the Liberal, they let us down too, the same as they all do. They make promises, but they all break them, don't they?
Well, I'm going for Independent because I think he's going to give the commercial side of things a pretty good go, and he seems to have the interest of Newcastle at heart. Been a very safe Labor seat for a long time, and we might have missed out on a few things because of that.
Well, I've only lived in Newcastle for 4 years and I think it's got fantastic potential, and I want to see somebody tap that potential more so than what I've seen. I've seen a lot of changes in 4 years, but I want to see faster changes.
I'd say, Newcastle area I don't worry about. It's mainly sort of Australian area. I'd say mainly the gun issue is the main thing at the moment, I would say.
So are you happy with the proposals the Labor government's put up to stop the guns?
At the moment, yeah. There's so much argument between the two of them. You can't really tell. I think they argue more than they sort of put proper points forward.
Does the union still support Mr Nichols as the ALP candidate for Newcastle?
Well, I can't speak for the whole of the workforce in Mr Nichols' electorate. Maybe that's a question you should ask them.
Do you think an issue like this could affect his chances?
Making statements like this where it will affect rail workers, yes, I do.
How does the union plan to fight his plan?
Well, being a democratic organisation, we will be guided by what the rank and file instruct us to do.
The role of politicians' wives in elections has certainly been a changing one. Increasingly, they are rolling up their sleeves and helping with the workload. This election has sometimes seen them involved in volatile and quite dangerous situations.
There was a time when they were barely seen at all. Then they were seen but rarely heard. Now more than ever, the wives of politicians are playing a more prominent role.
In this election, Nick Griner's wife Catherine has been hard on the campaign trail. Far from just being at his side, Mrs Griner has been sharing the workload and believes that it's just too much work for one person.
There's a large state to cover in just 4 weeks, so Nick and I are spending time together but also coming out and campaigning separately.
In contrast, the wife of the Premier, Pauline Unsworth, interprets her role much more traditionally. She's part of the old guard that sees her role much more as a supportive one and still prefers to remain in the background.
Well, I think you do a good, worthwhile job if you can help them to relax, make the path a little bit smoother for them, and then by being involved and going to functions with them, that's always helpful. But of course you can't do everything with them because you just haven't got the support that they have. They've got whole departments behind them, but I think wives in all political parties do an excellent job of supporting their husbands.
Have you been out on the hustings this election?
Yes, all the time.
Have you been out a lot by yourself, out and about?
Well, I've been out and about by myself ever since Barry's been the Premier. I've been to places that are using the Richmond Report, the Richmond program. I've been to the Theatre for the Deaf, the Theatre for Children. I've been to senior citizens. I've been to civilian widows' functions, opening their functions. So I've been doing all those things quietly in the background for Barry. And not for Barry, but for the Labor Party.
The first police knew of the trouble was a telephone call to Beresfield station around 2 o'clock expressing concern about a man acting suspiciously at the centre. However, on their arrival, they were told that a young employee of the hairdressers shop in the complex had been shot. They made their way immediately to the hair salon to be greeted by a man coming out, still carrying a weapon. The first police officer on the scene followed the man, and 4 doors down from the hair salon, he drew his revolver.
Just come running along there and said, "Stop or I'll shoot." And he said, "This is a warning," and he fired the one into the air. And I was watching him and I didn't see the offender, but I think he got into the car and then he fired 2 more shots.
Meanwhile, the gunman climbed into the driver's seat of the vehicle, turned his weapon on himself and fired. After stabilising her condition, paramedics placed the wounded woman on board an ambulance to be ferried to the Westpac rescue helicopter waiting nearby. Within minutes, she was at the Royal Newcastle Hospital, where her condition is now officially listed as critical.
Well, I became very disenchanted with the Labor Party. I felt that they'd lost touch with the grassroots members of the party, and I felt also that Newcastle was getting a bad deal.
Do you feel that your campaign is being divisive to the Labor Party in Newcastle at the moment?
No, in many ways, the issues that I've raised are things that should have been talked about for years. And people are saying to me, I'm glad you've made the stand. And I think really that the Labor Party will never be quite the same again in this town. And I think that's a good thing. I would say that for 20 years that I've been in the ALP, I've fought the New South Wales machine. I've seen its influence extend to the federal sphere. I see the influence of the New South Wales machine being responsible for the so-called economic rationalists, for example, being in control in Canberra.
How would you describe your political affiliation? Would you say you're left of centre, right of centre?
I'm described as left only because I haven't been forelock pulling to the right-wing machine. But as I've said, I've been loyal to principles. And my policies have been, to a large extent, the sorts of things that Labor stands for. A fair go for all people, civil liberties, an enlightened view on the environment. I still stand by those. If they're left-wing, well, I'm happy to be labelled left-wing. But I certainly don't see myself as left-wing. I see myself as just a principled person with integrity.
Federal Minister Peter Morris and member for Lake Macquarie Merv Hunter announced the completion date today during an inspection of the freeway. The latest section extends 16 kilometres from Morisset to Freemans interchange. Meanwhile in Sydney, the opposition announced it has evidence the government is planning to introduce a new toll affecting people in Sydney's west. Opposition spokesman for Transport Bruce Baird says the toll would cover the extensions of the F4 between Parramatta and Prospect. Well, one person who probably won't approve the plan is Sydney motorist Alison Green, who so far refused to pay the $1 Harbour Bridge toll ever since its introduction. Mrs Green appeared in Castlereagh Court on charges of toll evasion today. Magistrate Lillian Austin dismissed the charges, stating she sympathised with Mrs Green. The government has labelled the decision a political stunt. This is Elton, an 11-year-old Labrador cross. People who know him call him a real superstar. Elton is one of the shining lights in the Pets as Therapy program. So much so, he's been nominated by the New South Wales Guide Dog Association as International Therapy Dog of the Year. So what makes Elton so special? Well, to answer that, you just have to see him in action with his current owner, Tony Arnold. Tony and Elton live in the Ryder Cheshire home in Singleton, and they're inseparable friends. Tony is a mute quadriplegic after suffering a stroke in December 1980. Before then, he was the chief radiographer at Coffs Harbour Hospital. And despite his massive disabilities, Tony's outlook today remains positive. He's 46 years old and yet looks like a man 10 years his junior. He communicates by using a mouth wand to punch out words on a keyboard. His small personal computer gives him the freedom to write. In fact, he's halfway through a book at the moment. It may take a little longer, but Tony says he's got time on his hands. And at all times, Elton remains on hand as a constant companion.
He's a real character. He's taken over the house completely. When we first heard he was coming, we were horrified, a dog in the house. But he's really the best person there.
Elton has had a few jobs before Tony found him. He was a guide dog, but his blind master died. He then went to a geriatric hospital as a companion to the elderly patients. But there he was almost killed by the love and attention.
He actually was a bit too well cared for there. And
You mean overfed?
Yes, exactly. He was overfed and pampered too much, and they felt, he actually got to a stage where he wasn't all that well.
He was then a companion to a terminally ill boy who subsequently died of a brain tumour. So Elton has seen a lot of life, and it hasn't always been pretty. But somehow, Elton always seems to be able to win over the day.
We were horrified when Tony told us, I'd like to get a dog, because we thought, well, who's going to look after it? It's just another job for somebody. Somebody's, it's a problem. But then when we realised the sort of dog and quite how special the dog was, and in fact the therapy people, Tony purchased the dog from them, and then they sent him up on a trial basis. They sent somebody with him to train him with Tony, and it was all very, very professionally done.
Where does Elton sleep?
Oh, on Tony's bed. Where else?
Spend just a few hours with Tony and Elton and you start to forget about the word impossible. Despite having no movement in his arms and legs, just guess what Tony's hobby is. Would you believe skydiving? This jump was made by Tony as the tandem passenger at Elderslie last year. And he can't wait to give it another try. Now Tony's latest challenge is learning to speak again with the aid of a special keyboard voice synthesizer, a gift from local service clubs in appreciation of work done by Tony for other wheelchair-bound members of the local Upper Hunter community.
That's your 4-year-old daughter. She heard you speak with this machine for the first time.
Yes.
Marvellous feeling, yes? Sure was. Does anything ever keep you and Elton apart, your wonderful dog?
Only food.
Only food, like Goodo biscuits. Is he a good friend?
He's the most faithful mate I've had.
He's the most faithful mate you've had. That's lovely.
And it's been plain enough to see, but you can't believe. You just can't believe how you get to me.
With instructions to wear black tie, the ballroom at Sydney's Boulevard Hotel could have been catering for a wedding or a charity do. But the night's entertainment proved the affair was a little more lusty. The enthusiasm with which the girls performed during the pre-crowning ritual belied the nerves they must have felt. Who would win? Would it be Fifi or Bambi? The smart money, though, was on Emma Stone, the leggy beauty who earned favouritism by selling out Penthouse's March issue. She was so popular, even the street posters were in demand. After the catwalk frolics, the big announcement. The pin-up experts had got it right.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 1988 Penthouse Pet of the Year is Emma Stone.
But like any beauty queen, she was overcome, albeit briefly, by the moment. The tears, however, were wiped away by the knowledge she had won $50,000 in prizes.
This photo of Brian and Laurel Teese was taken on Christmas Day. Brian has been a plant operator in the Muswellbrook area for the past 9.5 years. He's a family man with 3 daughters. But since the 16th of February, he's not moved out of this bed. Brian is just one of a number of people in the Hunter each year who fall victim to melanoma. He lies in the special bed donated by a local service club. Called a Mecca bed, it allows Brian to be moved with minimal discomfort. But that doesn't erase the brutal reality of his condition.
The cancer's in his spine, so you can't actually touch him, it hurts him too much. Alright? And he's numb from the waist down, that means he's got no control over his bowels or his bladder. So you've got to try and get
Brian's
his legs
fight against
positioned
cancer
right.
started 5 years ago. A mole just a millimetre deep was removed from his back. After tissue around that mole was removed, Brian was given the all clear. In September last year, a lump in a gland under his arm was removed. Doctors then gave him an 80% chance of a full recovery. But since then, his condition has deteriorated rapidly.
It's spread to my T9 vertebra and down to the sacral region of my spine, as well as showing up again under my right arm, my left rib cage and my right lung.
What does that mean as far as mobility?
As far as mobility is concerned, I have none from the waist down. It's
Brian puts his melanoma down to skin irritation and the time spent in the sun as a young man. He says a factor 10 sunscreen should be a minimum, 15 for young children.
Now, there's no warnings on sunscreens that are out at the moment that they should be applied 20 minutes or 15 to 20 minutes before going into the sun. And this is actually the correct procedure that should be followed before going out into the sun, is to apply your screen 15-20 minutes beforehand and keep reapplying it while you're out in the sun.
One of Brian's few pleasures is an occasional glass of stout and lemonade. He's also decided to stay at home today, opting for the quality of life with his family rather than therapy, which may only delay the inevitable. At 39, Brian has one last wish, and that is to establish a support group in the Upper Hunter for other terminally ill people and their families.
They do have a Hunter Melanoma Foundation, which has only just recently started. If the community could get behind them financially, it would be a big benefit. It won't benefit me, but it'll benefit a lot of other people in the long run.
Are you bitter at all?
No, John, I'm not bitter. It's just one of those things that happens. I've got to live with it. I'm living on a day-by-day basis, John, hoping and praying to God that he'll intervene in this, and he is the last resort that I have.
What about support for people in your situation? Is there much about?
John, there's no support at all.